Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
For Inside the Training Room. How you doing, Austin?
I'm doing fantastic.
All right. You ready for a little wild card weekend? You had college football last night, college football tonight, playoffs this weekend. If you're a football fan, you got to be pretty pumped for these next few games.
It is. We're on the kind of the tail end of the seasons for both collegiate and NFL, but it's obviously a lot of great football left ahead of us.
Right, exactly. I want to start. I know we've talked a lot about him, but I know because he posted a video and such. But Micah Parsons, who had his ACL surgery just a couple days ago, he had posted a video. He was already kind of doing some rehab with the Packers training staff. It looked like he was, kind of on lifting some weights or something with maybe his leg and such. I guess for me, can you kind of explain, when somebody's recovering from an ACL injury, do they typically right away can start the rehab process and start that range of motion and such? Like, what does that timeline look like? How quick somebody can start that rehab process?
Yeah, the answer is virtually immediately. Now, what restrictions are in place depend on what was done during surgery and, of course, the injury pattern. So, if we do just isolated ACLs, and hopefully that's all his was, we, usually will allow the patients to kind of progress to some weight bearing almost immediately, with a ramp up, hopefully doing more full weight bearing by 2 weeks. And then, during that whole process, they're starting range of motion immediately, muscle activation. So doing things we call them quad sets and short arcs and things like that, really are trying to stimulate the muscles to wake up. Again, those can be started immediately. If there's cartilage work or meniscal work, sometimes we do limit their weight bearing a full 6 weeks, and that does delay guys a little bit. But if that's what it takes to get things to heal correctly, that's it. So part of it depends on the injury pattern, but for the most part, like as far as range of motion, muscle activation, that is for all ACLs basically done immediately. So yeah, that's something they start right away, which I think kind of throws some people off. You think you're like, oh, we have to protect it. In fact, historically, back in like the 80s and 90s when ACLs were a little more in their infancy as far as reconstructions, they would actually cast people. They'd put them in a cast for 2-3 weeks. You can just imagine how stiff and weak those patients were. So, really, some of the biggest changes in rehabilitation is that kind of early onset of doing those things, and it's really kind of helped patients recover much more quickly.
Actually, that's what I was going to ask you too, because I re-looked it up. He was actually on a bike, not a leg machine there, but it's like he's got one strip of like athletic tape or bandage, down his knee. There's no big brace or it's not completely wrapped up. It just looks like one piece of tape that's kind of covering the surgical area.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's really doesn't take a lot of kind of stabilization for that part. Now, if he's up moving around, they'll probably have him wear a brace. Although it depends on the surgeon. Some aren't as big a fan of those, but yeah, it really, you think it's like, all right, that thing that's in there, it's like a China doll. Like, you don't want to twist funny or it's going to fall apart. No, they're pretty robust and the fixation's pretty strong, but it's a balancing act on getting back and getting going. And, ultimately, of course, you're trying to get a human being to be able to cut and pivot on a leg, especially guys as big as him. The leg has a long way to go, but the sooner you start and the sooner you get going, the sooner you get there.
So with this Packers-Bears game coming up on the Bears side of things, it looks like Rome Odunze is going to play. He has missed the last 5 games, what they're saying is a foot injury. And I know, a few weeks ago, he had actually re-aggravated that foot injury in pregame warmups. He was active for the game and didn't play. I haven't really seen exactly what they said the foot injury is, but, the fact that he has missed the last 5 games with this foot injury and such, any idea, possibilities of what that could be, and how impactful do you think he can be in tomorrow night's game?
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere that it was a stress fracture is what I think they were saying. So, and I could be wrong on that, but I thought I remember reading that. So, stress fractures can be fickle because, it's not a complete fracture, so there's not like a complete break across the bone. Usually when we're talking about stress fractures, in these athletes, we're actually talking about what's called a stress reaction. So it's kind of the precursor to an actual fracture, because you can get a stress fracture where it's literally the bone breaks all the way through. But if that was the case, he'd have his foot shut down and probably even have surgery. So this is more likely in the stress reaction family. So, it's basically on one end, you got to rest it because the bone needs to heal. They probably have him on a bone stimulator and other things they're trying to do to increase the healing potential. But it's a time thing, and there's not a real set Like, well, generally at week 2 or week 4, it depends on which bone is involved, and they haven't said anything that I've seen other than just quote foot. Most of the time, those are going to be in one of the metatarsals. One of the most famous areas would be on that base of the 5th metatarsal, so people can get kind of stress reactions in that Jones fracture area, and those can be a troublesome area to get to heal. But he's been out, whatever it's been, 5-6 weeks. It's something clearly is an area that's not healing really quickly. And my guess is they tried to test that waters and the bone just wasn't ready. So he went to run on it. It's like, nope, not ready yet. And so they're saying he's ready. Is it certainly possible? Of course it's possible, because those will eventually heal. And like I said, he's going to be getting every treatment known to man thrown at it. And that timeline is about right. I mean, usually we'll see kind of a 4 to 6 week window. Those should be doing better. But like I said, it's very dependent on which bone is involved and how severe the stress reaction is. And so, I mean, I will admit we don't see a ton of those in football players. They tend to be more in like cross-country runners or sprinters, things like that. But you'll occasionally see a football player show up with one. So it'll be, if they're saying it's improving, I mean, maybe he's at the point where the bone is healed up enough now where it can handle the stress. And once you get through it, it usually is done. So, I mean, if it's better, it should be better. It shouldn't come back.
Just since you said stress fracture, I looked it up. It is a stress fracture. They said he suffered in October, and then he tried in week 15 and had a setback, and then they just kind of shut him down after that to get him ready for the postseason. So, yeah, good call on the stress fracture.
Yeah, and that sounds about right. So I'm guessing they tested the waters. He went on it and said, nope. And I can also pretty much guarantee he's at least 1 or 2 MRIs to assess it because, like I said, it's almost certainly a stress reaction, not a stress fracture. And so that's going to be something that's seen really only on MRI. So they're going to assess, and what will show up on the bone, like this bony edema, this inflammation of the bone. And really you can see just how severe that is. And if they're monitoring it and it's looking better and he's feeling okay, clearly they think it's ready to go. And again, like I said, I think that timeline fits pretty well.
Zach Tom, I think, is the one Packer player. A lot of Packers fans are wondering if he's going to be able to go tomorrow. It's kind of interesting. So he's missed the last few weeks as well. Earlier in the week, Matt LaFleur said that that's the expectation is that he is going to play, that he did not practice yesterday. LaFleur saying they were just giving him the day off, and then that we'll see if he can play on Saturday. So a little bit of a change of tune. He's listed on there as a back and a knee. So I don't know if it's a little gamesmanship from Matt LaFleur trying to, get a little every advantage that they possibly can. But I'm wondering, the fact that it's back on there too, because you've talked about this a lot, right? Those back injuries can be pretty finicky and flaring up and that type of stuff.
Yeah, they can. I mean, that, as opposed to, let's say, just a stress fracture, which we were talking about, generally you get over that and it's gone. Back problems certainly can be recurrent. Now, of course, it depends on what back problem it is. It can be super variable. I mean, you could have a disc problem, you could have a muscle problem, you could have a facet problem, and those can all be very different. Some very much reoccurring, where it's like, some people just, quote, have a bad back. I mean, those are people who may have some degenerative changes, which at this point in his life he shouldn't, but there are some congenital things that guys and gals can get that can result in even early arthritic stuff in the back. So it is a little variable. By far the most common thing, though, is going to be in the soft tissue. So muscle, so the paraspinal muscles along the back, they're getting some aggravation. And those can be things that can come and go. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously at the end of the day in a playoff game, guys are a lot more likely to say, all right, let's push that envelope a little bit. Why? Well, because it's do or die, right? You don't win, season's over. So people will say, look, I'm going to try pushing this injury because there just may not be a next week. So it sounds as though, earlier in the week they were a little more optimistic. You're right. Maybe this is gamesmanship. That certainly, Bill Belichick was the king of that. But sometimes coaches will do that. It's a little, playing chess out there, trying to figure things out. But it'll be interesting to see, where he ends up landing.
I got to ask you about your quarterback last week and in that game against Green Bay, J.J. McCarthy. Looked like he kind of re-aggravated with his hand injury, or maybe it just kind of flared up and such. I mean, is there, I know that he didn't play after that and such. Was it possible that he could have done more damage to that hand injury, or do you think it was more just like maybe it flared up a little bit and they're just being cautious and taking him out for the rest of that game?
I think it's more it just was irritable. And he actually, I think, pulled himself out from what I saw in the reports. I mean, I was at the game and all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, McCarthy's not out there. Like, there wasn't this big to do. So I'm assuming he felt like it either affected his grip strength or his ability to throw the ball. And so, but it sounds like he didn't hit it again or actually get it damaged. So I don't know if just all of a sudden the pain crept up and just, again, made it difficult for him to grip the ball. Hard to say for sure. I doubt he had significant further damage to it, though. I mean, if he would have taken one really hard hit to it, obviously it's a possibility, but it doesn't sound like that's the case. So my guess is it just got irritated, affected his grip, and he said, I'm done. So hopefully that, and, shouldn't be a long-term issue. I mean, bones heal really well, and so my suspicion is, he'll have basically the whole off season to get back, because it really should be, frankly, weeks, and then he should be ready to go. But nothing for us to go for right now. We're at home, as you know.
One more injury I want to ask you about. It's 49ers receiver Ricky Pearsall. So he apparently has, they're calling a sprained PCL. I know we've talked about sprained MCLs and such, but we don't, at least I haven't seen it too often, a sprained PCL. Is this kind of a common injury or is this pretty rare? And I mean, just how significant is this type of injury that he's kind of going through and trying to play through potentially this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, so PCL, it's a posterior cruciate ligament, so it's kind of a twin to the ACL. So they both sit inside the middle part of the knee, and they kind of create a cross. That's what cruciate stands for. It's Latin for cross. So they sit right next to each other. So the PCL is a very important ligament in the knee. It is, when it's injured, it can be a full tear. Now, that is also one that can be partial. As opposed to the ACL, even though they're right next to each other, the body's ability to heal with the PCL is actually quite good, as opposed to the ACL, which is not good at all. And so when you tear your ACL, it's kind of like it's torn, and whether it's not. I mean, if you remember, Jair Alexander went through this. That was kind of the end of his tenure, really, with the Packers. I mean, and so PCLs, sometimes we'll sit there and say, all right, let's brace it and see. Even a high-grade PCL, I mean, you can have almost a full PCL tear. In fact, even a full PCL tear, and sometimes it can heal pretty well. Now, if it was a really high-grade full tear, he'd be done. They'd be shutting him down. But you may not even have to have surgery on it. Sometimes you can brace it and rehab it. So there's more moderate and low-grade ones. You definitely opt for bracing. Now, how quickly can they get back on the field? Really depends on the knee is responding. So one of the big factors is there another injury with it? Because often ligament injuries, both ACL and PCL, are not isolated, meaning you have something else at the same time. So meniscal tears, maybe a collateral ligament with it, so the MCL or the LCL. Could there be a bone injury or bad bone contusion? Those are all things that play a role. But if it is truly an isolated moderate grade PCL, those are things where we kind of allow them to say, all right, we'll put you in a brace, we'll get you out in the field, and we'll see how it goes. If he's pretty fresh off of it, it may not go great. But if it's low grade, I mean, it's possible. Again, in the playoffs, guys try to push through things that they may not always. I wouldn't put it as a really high-risk injury for him to really damage it further. So he may be able to try push into that. But again, there's a lot of factors that play that we just don't know all the answers to. I'd say the biggest, again, being, is there an associated injury that they're just not disclosing?
I forgot. Speaking of 49ers, last question for you, because I don't know if you saw this theory, this viral theory that has been out there trying to explain why the 49ers have a huge injury history or a huge injury list. So there's this person, his name is Peter Cowan. I guess he's a researcher. But he said that he claims the chronic exposure to electromagnetic fields from an electrical substation near the team's practice facilities is contributing to soft tissue breakdown over time. Have you heard this theory, this wild theory out there?
I did actually see a post on X on that. I mean, do we know everything there is to know about the human body and its interactions with things around us? We don't. Are there some basic science things that suggest that could be bad for tissue? Potentially, but these guys are only spending a handful of hours at this place, and they showed an aerial picture, and it looks like it's at least probably a couple hundred yards, if not further away. I would say unlikely. I think that's probably more of like a kind of a fluke thing. But who knows? I mean, I guess it's possible. I mean, there are definitely studies on using, electrical fields for soft tissue healing, for bony healing. And so, and those are different frequencies. So, I mean, there's ones that are considered good and bad. And so, I mean, is it possible that that's playing a role? I suppose. I certainly wouldn't hang my hat on that. I guess we'll see how serious they take it. If they move their facility, then we'll know they're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any data to suggest that that's an accurate statement. I think it's probably more coincidental. And then, of course, we all know how the internet works. The little viral thing goes, and all of a sudden you have all the guys wearing tinfoil hats coming out, that kind of thing.
All right, before I let you go, I got to ask you, I know you don't have a horse in the race here, but it is a divisional playoff game. Who do you got in tomorrow night's game?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I think both teams are limping into the playoffs here. I think Vegas has you guys favored, if I remember looking last, by like 1.5 points.
Yep.
With the injuries that you guys have, I want to say I think the Bears are going to pull out, but I mean, I think you guys might be actually playing better football than them. On the road, it's tough. I think it's going to be certainly within a touchdown, likely a field goal game. I'd probably go Bears just because they're at home, and then the injuries that you guys have, I think that's a lot. But I mean, they certainly are not playing great football either. So not to be a hater, I don't see either one of these teams going on a deep run here in the playoffs. I just don't think either of them are set up for it this year. Just without the injuries, I think you guys certainly could be a team that could. But that's really the Micah Parsons on defense. He's such a game changer. But you never know. Teams can get hot. But I'll say let's 21-17 Bears. I guess we'll go with that. But I think either team could win. I think it'll be a close game.
All right. He's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Dude, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy a lot of football games, and we'll catch up with you again soon, okay?
Absolutely. You guys take care.
You got it. There you go. There's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.